So, we're in times of escalation. We're experiencing terror on a daily basis. September and October of 2015, the third Intifada. Yeah, and there are people that are really talking about the beginning of the third Intifada. There's those that say that it's not here yet. There are those that say that we are on the verge of an intifada, and the general feeling that people have is that there's no one to protect us. Everyone's talking about it everywhere. It's a very hard feeling. We know that we're a strong people, but along with our strength and force, still we're very bare and are protected. Today there were even protests and people didn't send their kids to school because of feeling of insecurity. And the people are calling out, give us back our security. Today, people were even asked to arm themselves. And the feeling is that we have to protect ourselves and that there's no one that can protect us, something that we'd expect as citizens. So, what's happening to Israel's strength? My first question to you. We're very weak because, first of all, we're giving our enemies, we allow our enemies to be amongst us in our cities, everywhere, in every city, in every village, on every junction, on every street. They can walk freely. You can't check everyone. They can enter any shop and buy a knife and use it the way they like doing it. And of course, it's impossible to take control of the situation. And we also can't give orders to shoot right, to shoot left, to shoot everyone. Because then the whole world will come against us from the outside, meaning we have enemies from the inside and we have the enemies from the outside, and we're in the middle, in between the two. And our situation is really a very bad situation. We can't respond harshly. We can allow our soldiers to fire, and it's being used by the residents of the territories. And the problem is that today they can enter any place, any school, any supermarket, any mall, anywhere, and do anything there. Meaning we are not in control of the situation at all. We're not in control of the situation. The problem is that we can't operate ourselves with all our desire to take control of the situation, because if tomorrow we will answer with force, the whole world will start shouting at us, will boycott us, and it will be impossible for us to exist in today's world where everyone's interconnected and interdependent. We won't be able to do anything. It's not simply the UN with their talk, but it's like what they did with Russia, with all the limitations they put on trade, and so on. And the Russians, they said that if you worsen the situation, we'll go to war. Because they wanted to close off their SWIFT, I think. And then it's really hard. Any buy and sell and everything, it's simply, you disconnect the country. And the Russians said, if you do that, that's it. You have to know that that is a sign for war. Live war. And I think that the siege they put Russia under, the partial siege, but still I think it was enough for the Russians. And I think that this is the reason they went into Syria, to show you can't do to us what you feel like. But this is something that they can allow themselves to do. We can't allow ourselves to do, because we're encompassed by our enemies. Also from within, we let them go everywhere. They can buy apartments next to us. They can go everywhere, actually. And I'm not talking in parliament and everything. And this is why we ourselves, we came to a situation where we're very weak. And here there is already a serious problem. What do we do? I think that there's nothing to do. We can't even turn off their electricity, turn off their water, stop paying them because they're using our money in order to kill us, and so on. Meaning we can't do anything. So it follows that if we look at a simple person, he's crying out, where's the security? But suppose if he's elected for office, he becomes a parliament member or something, he keeps quiet. We all remember Sharon and Rabin that were so tough until they came to power. When they came to power, they started bending. They started bending. Sharon, he gave away all the territories around Gaza, and this is the reason for which we have problems from there today. And Rabin did what he did. And we're in a state where we see that the government is incapable of doing anymore, meaning it won't help crying out to Bibi, and it seems to me that he's the last that would give up an inch of security in favor of Arabs, but he can't. He can't. He's doing the maximum that he can. We saw what he did with Iran, how he really went to face the US president, and he wasn't afraid, and he yelled wherever he could. But here he's doing something, but he probably feels that this is the limit. He can't do anymore. Because if there he was only against the Americans and the Europeans and the Russians, they were so-so, then if here we fight back, then the whole world will turn against us. Should we be worried about the escalation in security? Yes. What could it come to, in your opinion? It could come to anything. It could come to bombs, missiles, that they'll really start exploding grenades in the middle of the street, and what can you do? They are very close to us. It's not somewhere behind the fence. There's no fence today. They are really amongst us. And we can't control everything. Even though that today there are good external conditions, that the Syrians, they're occupied with their issues, and Jordan's afraid of Syria, ISIS, and also Lebanon, and the Hezbollah is not that strong, and Gaza is in ruins, and Egypt have their problems with the Bedouins there and so on. Meaning, within our borders, we're kind of in a situation where we can say that, okay, now we have time, and a situation where we can really pressure, take care of the, suppose, stone throwers. But the truth is we can't, because the entire world, with all the problems that they'll be more than happy to turn their face to us and shout at us and forget about the rest of the things. This is something that's happening all over the world, that they're let into populated areas, and still they hate us more than they hate them. And still they will not be able to say, you're right, that you're putting them in place. The Europeans won't say that, with all the suffering they're undergoing from that very same Arab population. There's a feeling that terror is showing its face all over the world, and everyone's making one hand with it. It's not that everyone's fighting it. In the global world, in a situation where the borders of a country are no longer borders, that you can go in and come out of each and every country, that I can take a boat and get to Spain, Italy, Greece, even England, anywhere, and I'm barely stopped on the way. So what can you do? We allowed the world to be open. The question is, could we keep closing it? That's also a question. Could we keep it closed? But now that it's open, we can't do anything. What is terrorism? Anyone can buy a gun, a knife, a small bomb. Everyone has mobiles. Everyone knows what's going on everywhere at any given moment. There's a good connection between everyone. They all know how to use all of these means. And this is why they're starting to control the world. Terror and terrorism instead of governments and armies. An army can't face terror. An army just can't. It's not built to cope with terror anywhere. Anywhere. Look what's going on in Europe and in the US and even in Russia with all of their regime and everything. And in Israel, our situation is much worse because we can't activate our force, even what we have, that everyone's using their force around the world, and we can't because all of the countries of the world will come against us. In your opinion, are we still strong? Do we have sufficient strength, force? Our strength comes from a simple place that they depend on us in electricity, water, money. They're dependent on us with everything, and we can use that. We know very well what's going on with them, but with all of the logistics, we can't work against them because our hands are tied. You said that an army today can't prevent terror. It's well known. In our country, we're still investing many resources into security. It's not the same security. We're preventing many things with our field work. And there, among the Arabs, we're spending billions and billions in order to buy people intelligence. Yes, intelligence. And here we're doing lots of things that no one knows about, but that's how it really is. And without that, it would have been altogether. But the problem is that if it bursts out, we can't respond. That's the problem. Usually, we stop it before it happens. But sometimes they get a lot of money and then they pay a lot of money to all those young guys that have nothing to do, and the kids and their parents and so on and so forth. And we can't control the situation anymore. So what can we do? Nothing. Nothing. It's not that we don't have many options, we have no options. So what do? What they're telling is what we'll have to do. We'll have to fold and get out of here. Is there another option? There's only one option besides that, which is that we will use the higher force. There is no other form of coping with what's going on.